Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where we are just about done with this mission here. We're also just about done with this turn, so let's get ourselves warped on forward, and we're just going to hop around over to this periapsis here, where we're currently just above the atmosphere. It's also apparently very dark here. Hi, Jewel Rise. Okay, that's pretty neat. So that is fine here. We've got another 30 seconds, so let's just warp forward a little further here. Now 10 seconds, and 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Now we're going to be a little wobbly here, a little wibbly and wobbly, that's absolutely fine. And we're just looking to drop this down for a ways. We can see that our periapsis is actually going up here, okay? Ooh, that dropped a little further than I wanted it to. Okay. We're going to have to try to flip this guy on around and raise that back up unless we want to go into the atmosphere at this periapsis. It's actually probably relatively fine. We have full control right now, and we should be occluded from our comsat, so I think it's okay. I think that indicates that we'll be absolutely fine. So let's go ahead and drop this periapsis down to somewhere around 30 kilometers or so. About here. That looks good. Now, around here, I'm going to create a maneuver. Now, it's just a small retrograde burn, and the purpose behind that is to pre-orient ourselves before we enter the atmosphere, where we're going to know approximately where the retrograde point will be. Because this thing turns very, very slowly, right? And we absolutely have a bunch of DV to get rid of here. We've got 1867 to get rid of. And we're going to commence a burn around here. This is not the actual burn. This is just a timer and a direction indicator for us. So that's okay. We're just preempting this turn right now. So that looks good. No problem in theory. The next question is, can we enter the atmosphere slowly enough? Right? So all we're looking to do right now is make our way around to the retrograde point. Or close to it. So I'm currently looking at our ground velocity. We need to be at sea level velocity, or rather sea level altitude. But it's the same exact thing right now. We're over water, or whatever it is on Laythe. I'm not sure if it's actually water. It might be like, I know on Eve it's explodium. It might be something here entirely different. I'm not sure. But whatever the liquid is on Laythe, we're over it. So that looks good for now. So I'm noting that this seems to be a little extreme, considering that we are going to... We're only 1 kilometer above the atmosphere right now. Let's go ahead and head back towards retrograde. I think that this is a little late. Okay. So I'm going to warp us forward a tiny bit, mostly just to arrest that momentum. And that seems fine. We're going to commence this burn the moment we hit atmosphere. We want to be slowing down a lot, and I want to be in surface retrograde for that. Wonderful. So we're about 500 kilometers, or rather 500 meters away from the surface right now. I'm a little concerned that this antenna might not survive, but I think we should be okay. This satellite is coming up over here. This timing isn't ideal, but we'll give it a go. We'll see how this ends up playing out. We're currently about 100 meters above the atmosphere and falling fairly rapidly, and we are officially in the atmosphere as of now, commencing burn. Okay, and we're just going to burn here until we get rid of the vast majority of this velocity. And yes, this is very wobbly. That's not surprising. Okay, this is extraordinarily wobbly. This isn't exactly the direction I want to be going right now. So that's exciting. This is definitely not the direction I want to be going. We did manage to shave off around 400 meters per second there, but we want to get a few more gone. we're working on bringing ourselves around here, and our control surfaces will help as we get deeper in this atmosphere. Okay, commencing the burn again. And let's slow this down a little bit further. Cool. We want to be falling primarily at this point. Okay, so we're down, we're holding attitude pretty decently at this point. We're down to about 1 kilometer per second. I want to drop our horizontal speed quite significantly. So we're down to about 800 meters per second. Looks decent. And we're continuing to work on dropping this. Yes, this is very wobbly, but this is not surprising considering our offset thrust at this point. Cool. Like I said, I want to get us down to about 300-ish meters per second. Just a much, much slower re-entry is what we're angling for here. So somewhere around here or so. Now it's going to go back up, and we're just going to let this drift for a little bit. We want to get a fair amount lower in the atmosphere, and I want to see how much our wings are actually able to control this attitude. It looks like they're able to control it at least somewhat, but as we get into thicker portions of the atmosphere, that will go up, and we're going to be continuing... Oh, we're entering into a bit of a spin here. Okay, and this is not super surprising, to be honest. Yeah, it's not super surprising. Let's just let this get back around and commence a burn again. I just want to keep our speed on the slower side here. As long as we're counteracting gravity, this seems okay. Cool. So once again, we're just keeping our speed somewhere around this point. Things are going to get a lot better for us once we ditch all of this, right? But for the moment, I want to let us drop down. We're in a reasonable position now, I feel like. We're seeing our surface speed kind of go all over the place. Okay, let's see if we can't get this a little under control, this spin that we've got here. Okay, that's apparently not happening. Sure. This just popped open, though, so that seems fine. At this point, what I want to do is I want to separate us. But the question is, can we do that safely? The answer is yes. Cool. Okay, so all we need to do now is activate this engine, and our mission should be completed. There we go. That is our mission completed. So, at this point, we are accelerating downward. I'm just going to try to fly this thing here on Laythe a little bit. I want to pull out of this dive if we can. Let's actually stop putting our... I don't know if we can actually pull out of this dive, now that I look at it. I'm trying to pull us up here. It is not going well. Yeah, it's really not going well. So we're going to just splash down, and this will be destroyed. That's fine. All we needed to do is activate the engine. So that's okay. It didn't go very well, but I'm not shocked about that, considering our entry there. It did exactly what we needed it to do. So we're going to hop back to mission control here, and that is our mission completed. Fantastic. So, is there anything else that we need to do here? Well, actually, yes. We need to land on Eve with a vessel with 10 Kerbals and return to Kerbal. So that is going to be a fairly large mission. This is going to be the hardest mission that we've done yet. No doubt about that. So let's hop over to R&D. And let's see if there's anything that we feel like we really, really need here. 16-seat crew cabin. That might be a useful thing to have. Sure, we can take that for now. And let's head into the VAB. We're going to be designing this from pretty much scratch. And I think we're going to do this in several stages. We're going to be testing each stage as we go and make sure that it's viable. So, first things first, we need to head into the VAB here. We need to get ourselves 10 crew capacity in total. Why is it taking so long to load the VAB? That's exciting. Okay, so we've made it into the VAB here. Now we need to make sure that we have 10 crew capacity. So we've got these command and control vessels here. So I'm thinking something like this is a 2-seat lander can. This is a 4-seat lander can. Okay, what do we have for crew cabins here? Where are crew cabins? What is that considered under? Crew cabin. Okay, so this is an 8-seat crew cabin here. That would do the trick. So this would give us 12 total seats. That is more seats than we need. So that sounds good. Now, on top of this, I want there to be a docking port, for sure. So we're going to be putting in a Clampatron Senior right there. That is mission number 1. Now, we're going to need to have a bunch of ways to slow down as we come into the surface of Eve. So, mission number 1 here is we're going to need an expandable heat shield, but we're also going to need 7 kilometers per second to get back into orbit, or thereabouts. That's going to be a whole thing. Okay, so let's get ourselves a Mammoth 2 here. Okay, so we're in that size? Sure. That seems fine. So we would go for, in theory, something like... This is not really what I'm going for here, but as a hypothetical, something like this, right? And then that would be 3631 meters per second. But if we put this on Eve, we can see that this is 0.83 thrust to weight. So that is definitely too low. We're going to need more thrust over Eve, and our actual delta V here is actually only going to be 1,226 meters per second. So this is not enough to achieve orbit, and that's not surprising. But what we're going to do at this point is we're going to put in our landing stage, because we're going to need a stack decoupler. In fact, maybe even a stack separator. Like this. And then we would have an inflatable heat shield here. Now, I definitely do want to have a big ol' reaction wheel up here to help us hold attitude, so that is going to end up being one of these bad boys. Excellent. Something like that. But we're going to need a heat shield for re-entry here. So an inflatable heat shield would be decent. That's only medium size. How big is that, actually? That is not large at all. Okay, so in that case, we're probably going to have to go with a series of regular-sized heat shields here. Okay, so as a hypothetical now, if we were to put in a decoupler here, this is going to be quad-coupled, like so. And we would be looking to bring in additional tanks like this. So that would, of course, be under fuel tank. We would be looking for, like, these guys. There's a lot of weight, and I'm aware of that. I would want some sort of aerodynamic nose cone up here, probably. Although, I'm wondering if we could maybe have a fuel tank up there. Probably could. So we'd be able to have some sort of a fuel adapter. And that would end up being something kind of like this. And then this would go down to... not like that. We would need a medium adapter, probably. And that would be... not that one either. Hang on, what one would we need? I guess that one technically works, but it's not great. That goes down to a Mark adapter. I'm not sure which one that is, but one of the Mark adapters. We're going to want, like, this guy. And then a nose cone on top of that. So something like this. Then we're going to want to have this be strutted together. No doubt about that. So we're going to need a strut, and we're in quad symmetry. Okay, good. We would want a strut here. We'd want a strut down here. And we would want at least one strut connecting it in over here. I'd probably do 2. So something kind of like that. We don't actually need to get out of this, I don't think. I don't think we need to get out of this. So we'll double check that in a bit here, but I do want to duplicate this guy and put it right here. Apparently we have failed to load in some of these. Sure. There we go. That's better. Now I will duplicate these and place them here. Perfect. Okay, so that would be our heat shield re-entry there. Now, I would definitely want to have some form of aero brake or something. I wonder if these would break. We had issues with aero brakes breaking in KSP 1 when doing a similar design. So that's definitely an intriguing question. So if we were to do this and we deploy these, we can see that they would deploy out like so. This is probably too few of them. But we'll see what this re-entry ends up looking like. Now, I want to take a quick peek at, well, we actually want to get some fuel lines going here. So I want to take a fuel line from out here directly in like that. Okay, so that would be the overall concept for our lander here. In theory. So, this is currently Kerbal. We need this to be over Eve, atmosphere, 0 altitude. This is giving Kerbal vacuum. Oh, I see. It's based on the selected stage. Right. We need to be here. Eve, atmosphere 0. So this is 0.58 thrust to weight. We do need to move this engine in. Like that. And this is 0.73 thrust to weight. Now, these decouplers will have happened by the time we're trying to fire these. So that's noted. We're definitely going to want to have some parachutes here. This is too low of thrust to weight. Okay. So we need some more power here. That is something that we will get to. For the time being, we're going to need some parachutes on this, though, for sure. So I'm going to go with 4 drogues. Something along the lines of this. And then I'm going to go with 4 mains. We'll test to see if that's enough. It may or may not be enough. So something like this. And these are, of course, going to be separated out a wee bit here. There we go. Something like that. And then we'd be coming back with all of this. So we actually would need a decoupler here. And then this would be connected underneath that decoupler. So this decoupler is going to be up here. Okay. And then this decoupler is going to happen at the same time that these decouplers happen. So it'll be something kind of like this. Okay, now we definitely don't have the thrust to weight down yet, and we need to get the thrust to weight correct. So this is going to need to be more engines. So we're going to, instead of being quad symmetry, we're going to take this up to octo symmetry. What that ends up meaning is that we should probably detach all of this, and we should go up to the larger radial decouplers. And then take this over to 8x symmetry. Place in the decouplers here. Ooh. Okay. These are clipping together. Okay. That means that we're going to need to space this out a little bit further. That's fine. We can do that. But it is going to be mildly awkward. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into our structures here, and we're going to grab ourselves some trusses. And we're going to have this be maybe this size? That looks vaguely okay. And I'd want them to be about here. Okay. I'm trying to see where our struts are on this. Apparently they don't exist. Okay. Sure. Now, I think we should probably do the decoupler directly on the rocket like this. More specifically, angled like this. Then these guys would be placed out here like that as spacers. Do we have the ability to make these have make these not be trussed, make them be insulated like in KSP1? The answer to that is no. Okay, this is some interesting angling that it wants to do here. Hang on, I saw a location. Oh, that was one. Okay, like that. Although these are somewhat broken. There we go. We'll put that in like so. Looks good. Now we need to do the strut work again. So that is fine. We will definitely do that. So I want to check our thrust to weight here. So this is now 0.82. Okay. I think it's clear that we need to get rid of these wacky nose cones. And we need to run unfueled nose cones. That didn't update. Okay. Well, we'll check to see what that updates to once we get this nose cone put in. It still didn't update. Okay. It's claiming it's still 0.82. It's claiming that that's the exact same. I don't believe it. That's not how that works. That thrust to weight should have gone up a fair amount. But what we can definitely do is we can run tests in situ, and we're going to need to do that. So what we're going to do here is we are going to run a fuel line through here. So the fuel line is going to go from here to here. That'll do. And we're going to need to put some struts in as well. So that'll go from here to here. From here to here. And then inside of here, we're going to put in struts from here to here. And also up top. So about like that. That should make that nice and rigid in theory. Now, as far as the aero brakes, we're probably going to end up having more aero brakes in this. I don't believe it that this is 0.82. I think that that number is going to be considerably different. But as I said, we're going to need to test that in situ. So we're going to move these guys up to here. That went up to 0.88. That might be the real number. And if that's the real number, then we have a problem here. But for the moment, this'll do. This is only showing 1353 meters per second as well. This is definitely not enough power to get this thing lifted off. We might have to rethink our center core here. We'll see what that looks like. I want to run a quick entry test over Eve here. So let's put this out on the pad. It's going to be really awkward. I don't know if we'll destroy these by sitting on them on the pad, but let's save this as the Eve lander. And let's do an entry test here. So we're going to launch this thing. And now we're going to simulate an entry. Okay, yeah, this is definitely awkward. But that's wobbling around a lot. That's fine. For now, we're going to do Alt. It's F8 in this game for some reason. And we're going to teleport ourselves into surface Eve. I don't care where. And the altitude is going to be like 150 kilometers. So we need this to be like 150,000 with a speed of 0. I guess it went down to 87,750. I guess it'll only put us at the in the atmosphere in KSP2. Okay, it's a little odd, but we're going to see how this is going to go. Now, electric charge is an issue. We're not testing for electric charge, so I'm actually going to turn on infinite electricity for the moment. As I said, we're not testing for that. I do want to deploy our air brakes. Okay. So we're a little lower than I'd like to be for this test. But this will give us some good information on our initial landing here. Obviously, we're not going to be claiming any of this research experiment. We're going to just revert this back. But the question here is, are we going to be okay on re-entry if we enter the atmosphere with no speed at all? This is not a very realistic test. And also, we know that our engines here, they're not going to be powerful enough to get us back into orbit. There's not enough fuel. There's not enough thrust to weight. We're going to have to do something different here. So that is understood. I don't think that hydrogen engines are really the way to go here. But we're definitely speeding up considerably. No doubt about that. Eve's gravitational mass is kind of huge, and this is unfortunately on the night side, but I guess it's fine. All we're looking to do here is see how safely we get down to the ground. And of course, we can have these parachutes fire. I'd like to land without burning our engines at all, in theory. That is the best way to go about doing this, in my opinion. So for now, we've got these heat shields. Okay, we can definitely see some heat build up here. We're losing attitude. Well, that's problematic. Okay, noted. So, it's not surprising that the first simulation ended like that. That is not surprising at all. We're going to need to go back to the VAB, and there's clearly some attitude loss there, so there's a couple of things that we can do about that. We can put in some SAS, we can put in more air brakes, although I don't know if air brakes really work for steering in KSP2. They didn't really seem like it. They do work for steering in KSP1. We could put fins on this, though. Some sort of, like, re-entry fin. That's maybe not a bad idea. So put, like, stabilizers out here. Something kind of like that. Maybe even facing the other direction. It'd be kind of wacky. So it would need to be facing this way, but it's rotated incorrectly. Yeah, it'd need to be facing this way. So these are intended to be used on re-entry. So that's definitely going to be interesting. That can help us hold attitude. Beyond that, I think that more air brakes are definitely in the cards here. So I think another set of air brakes here and another set of air brakes here, like that. That can also help us. That'll help us brake a fair amount. Now, obviously, our propellant here is going to be a problem. But for now, this'll do. We can use this as a starting point. This will be a starting point. It's going to need more work, no doubt about it. But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue the design process of what is definitely going to become a monstrosity. It'll be very interesting. I wonder if we might be better off, and this is a wild thought. What if we were better off lifting SRBs here, carrying SRBs the entire way, and using them to push a nuclear engine up high enough to be effective? It's an interesting idea. Regardless, it's time to put that cut in, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we can do some testing on maybe something along those lines. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.